be a boy. And I said when I got older, I was going to change. When my mother would go to work or go wherever she was disappearing on us, I would put on her dresses and I'd parade around the house. And my brother Herb would just fall out laughing. And I liked the way the dress fit and everything. And I remember one particular day, my mother said, "Oh, I believe it's another woman in the house somewhere." And I'm looking, stupid, what is she talking about? And she told me, she said, "Somebody is wearing my dresses and putting on my makeup." I still didn't say anything. So one particular day I came home from school and I had the Maybelline eyebrow pencil on my eyes. I had lined them up so pretty. My mother said, "Come here." And I walked over to her. She said, "Oh, you got eyebrow pencil on." And she said, "Oh, and you're the one that's wearing my clothes." My mother and grandmother and my great aunt, those were the three amazing women that I looked up to in my lifetime. I saw them one day and I ducked behind a car so they wouldn't see me. And then I told my grandmother about it, and she said, "Oh, we've always known who you were and what you were. You don't have to hide from us." And I fell in love with myself, because I didn't love myself at one time. But I fell in love with myself because I had a support group behind me. When Emmett Till was killed, we were in Chicago, and my mother wouldn't let me go down south to visit my relatives. I've always been outspoken. I've always had to have the last word, as my mother said. She said, "Well, I know you ain't going to whistle at no white woman, but you probably whistle at a white man and get killed." I graduated from Betsy Ross Grammar School, and then I went on to Inglewood High School. It was nice sometimes it wasn't. I was being chased home, bricks, bottles thrown at me, and I would go home and I just cry to my mother. I believe it was my beginning of my sophomore year. I was, changing myself. I was getting more and more feminine, and I did girly things. And one particular day, I was coming home from the Michigan Theater show with my cousin and my little brother. These four guys, three of them went to Inglewood High School, grabbed me and took me up into a gangway. They raped me, and my cousin told my father where they had taken me. And my father, he came and he protected me, and he caught one of the guys. And they had the barbed wire fence, and the boy got up to run, and my father grabbed him near the fence, and my father was going to crush his neck. I begged my father, "Don't do it. No, don't do it." Because I didn't want my dad to go to jail. They caught the guys because I knew who they were. And I had to go back and forth to court. They cross-examined me and all these dumb questions they were asking me. And I dropped out of high school because I didn't want to go back to be talked about and looked at, the shame of it all. people looked at me like I was just nothing, and they treated me like I was nothing. But I went back, and I went back stronger than I was before. I kept everybody laughing, and I was voted the most friendliest in high school out of 600 and something seniors that was going there during that time. And then I was voted a class officer, sergeant at arms. What does the sergeant at arms do? Well, they kept order, me keeping order, and I did. In high school, the only friends I had was girls. The guys didn't like me, and I didn't like them either. So hi, beautiful. How are you?
Fine, and you?
I'm fine.
Now, let me ask you, I'm a little ignorant.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes not politically correct.
Go ahead.
Would you be a transgender female or transgender male or what?
Do you just say transgender?
Or
I just say
what?
transgender, but
Okay,
I'm a transgender female.
okay.
Okay.
I want to get the story straight.
Right.
When I tell my family. Yeah. I want to be politically correct.
Correct.
Well, I
Okay.
told my family already. I said this was my prom date, and now she was
Oh.
George, and now she's Gloria.
Gloria, right.
And they just said Gloria is gorgeous. And then I think we just were in a class. And
You're right.
I think we just said you said like you want to go to prom. I'm like yeah. And then we just and I think I didn't know how to do a dance, and you showed me how to do some
Yeah.
dances.
Oh.
Because
Yeah.
I never could dance. And so George showed me dances and we practiced. So when we got to prom, in between singing, we danced a
We
lot.
danced. Yes, we
And
did.
we were good.
Yes, we were.
Because we
were.
practiced.
And then we went to Mr. Kelly's.
Yeah, we
remember?
certainly
Yeah.
did. Yeah, we were out all
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
You know, you hear so much about bullying now.
Right.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to know because I didn't.
Yeah.
Did you experience bullying?
I
bullying
did.
at
From the
Inglewood?
guys.
That I didn't
From the
know.
guys. Certain guys were nice to
And-
me, and some were just
Me.
downright cruel to me,
Okay,
you know.
Okay, that
But
didn't know.
I-
But you never showed it. 'Cause
No.
you had this air
Okay.
about you.
I knew in high school that I was different, you know, and I always had it in my mind, you a girl, you know,
Mhm.
and I knew that, you know, but I wanted to be accepted by my classmates,
Mhm.
and you all were always
Mhm.
acceptable
Okay.
of me, and you treated me with kindness, which I'll never forget.
Well, because you're a kind person.
Well, that's
But
good to hear.
Hi, good to see you. I know you're fabulous.
Gloria wanted to show her picture from high school.
Oh, okay. We're moving around.
Look for
Okay.
Gloria. I mean George.
Yeah, look for George.
We are.
Oh, there. Yeah.
Before and after.
Okay.
George Allen, student council, purple and white staff, to become a school teacher, pastime singing.
In the high school, I was friendly with all the girls, you know, but it was you damn boys that got on my nerves, you know, because you didn't understand.
What was your relationship with the football? With the football team?
With the
With the athletes? Weren't you like the towel boy or something like that?
no,
Do something for them? Or did they just tease you?
they teased me a lot. They teased me a lot, and then I'm not mentioning no names, but some of them had fun with me.
Like I know it's you would always be around the girls,
Yes,
hang around the guys.
no,
But at that stage in my life, I didn't have a label for you.
right.
Yeah, at that stage in my life, I didn't have a label for anybody.
You know,
Sex was a one day
I want to
thing.
thank
It
you for
wasn't.
showing up and sharing your dirty laundry. Thanks.
and making
Okay.
us all remember
She just
everything.
set the record straight for me. I gotta go home now.
It was fun because they got a chance to tell me about myself. And I just sat back and laughed. And here they see me in a different image. You know, they remember George Allen, but now they had to deal with Gloria Allen.
Martin Luther King, he was here about 3 or 4 times that I remember. He came to Chicago to march over in Cicero. And Cicero was a prejudiced place to be. If you were black, you better not be over in Cicero. Them white folks showed out on him.
Well, this is a terrible thing. I've been in many demonstrations all across the South, but I can say that I have never seen, even in Mississippi and Alabama, mobs as hostile and as hate-filled as I've seen here in Chicago.
It was a hard fight and a long fight trying to get things right.
After high school, I started going to the clubs. I went to college for a year, didn't finish because I was so, how would I put it? I was so into doing grown things, you know what I mean? And I just didn't go back to school anymore. I wanted to experience life, which I did. And it was one particular club that everybody would go to. And the name of it was the Parkside Lounge on 51st Street, right off of Cottage Grove. I was underage, I was like 19, and I was so fascinated by these clubs because all I saw was men up in there. Couldn't get in the club, but I would stand out and watch them as they go in, and this was so much fun to me. And then finally, I got into the club. It was like, ooh, this is paradise, you know, and seeing the trans girls up in there and the guys, and everybody was pretty to me up in there. Yes, they were. I met my first boyfriend in the Parkside Lounge, and Maurice was a replica of Johnny Mathis. When I was living with Maurice, that was my first time ever seeing men in high heels. Miss Edgar and Miss Benet and Miss Herman, they would come over to our house every week. Every weekend they were there, and we drink wine and have a good conversation. I was just outdone when I saw them walking down the streets with their high heels on in broad daylight. It was just like a parade of sissies in heels. They still live on in my head. I know who they are, and I know what I learned from them. The first sissy ball that I went to was at the Grand Ballroom. Miss Edgar, Miss Herman, and Miss Benet, they took me with them to the ball. We got to the ball, and all these lights and decoration, tables were all set up and done up beautifully. Then they had categories, for the queen, the king, streetwear. The girls would come in being carried in like Cleopatra. Wilbert Hi-Fi White was really the man or the woman that presented the balls, and Wilbert Hi-Fi White went all out of the way. Horse-drawn carriages. My eyes were just open so wide. My mouth was even open. On the weekends, I'd go to the Parkside and have fun, then come home, and then get up Monday morning and go to work. and I was working at the University of Chicago hospitals. I worked in the X-ray department as an X-ray technician, and I did that for a while until I got my certificate in nursing. And then I started dressing up. I put on dresses during the weekend because I had to work during the week. You know, I was a weekend drag queen, and I did that for a while. And then one particular day, I decided, hell, I'm tired of being a weekend drag queen. You know, I'm a woman. I'm going to work as a woman and everything. And I knew the hospital wasn't going to let me do it. So I left because I wanted to be me. I finally got a job at the Zanzibar Hotel. And I went to my boss and I told my boss, I said, would you keep me on or would you fire me if I start coming to work as a woman? And my boss told me, he said, sure, you can come, you're a good worker and we love you. And that started it, that George stepped out of my body and went on about his business.
Why are you here today?
Darling, I want my gay rights now. I think it's about time the gay brothers and sisters got their rights, and especially the women. I never did get a chance to meet Marsha, but Stonewall was the turning point for me. Being out, being able to fight for our rights, being able to speak out and protest against the injustice that was being made toward us. Hello, sweetheart. Okay.
I'm what cousin am I?
You, my first cousin.
Cousins are downstairs.
Hello.
She and I are 10 days apart.
LV,
Yes,
how
I'm
you doing? How are you doing?
Good.
Hey! Hey!
She's older now, not taking anything, but have matured. I put
Yeah.
it that way. We all have. I've gained 50 pounds. Charlotte's gained 50 pounds.
Plus.
Stop it.
Look,